I was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this. But I will tell you, in that moment, a lot of questions came to my mind. First of all, where are they taking me? Because I know I'm not just being escorted out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question? And what will my wife think? What will our boys think? And I also remember asking myself, if this aggressive escalation is the result of someone speaking up against the abuses and overreach of the Trump administration, was it really worth it? But colleagues, how many Americans in our nation's history have marched, have protested, have shed blood, even lost their lives to protect our rights? How many Americans have served in wars overseas to protect our freedoms here at home? And how many Americans in the year 2025 see a vindictive president on a tour of retribution, unrestrained by the majority of this separate and co-equal branch of government, and wonder if it's worth it to stand up or to speak out? If a United States senator becomes too afraid to speak up, how can we expect any other American to do the same? And colleagues, you know me. I can't think of a person who would describe me as a flamethrower. I try to be respectful. I try to be considerate to every member of this body, regardless of our political differences. And so I do want to take a moment to thank all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who have reached out to share your messages of support, whether they were public messages or many in private. Trust me, they mean the world to me, and I know they mean the world to my family. But if you watched what unfolded last week and thought what happened is just about one politician and one press conference, you're missing the point. If that is what the administration is willing to do to a United States senator for having the authority to simply ask a question, imagine what they'll do to any American who dares to speak up. If what you saw happen can happen when the cameras are on, imagine not only what can happen, but what is happening in so many places where there are no cameras. Colleagues, this isn't about me. In fact, it's not just about immigrant communities or even just the state of California. It's about every single American who values their constitutional rights. It's about anyone who's ever exercised their First Amendment rights, or anyone who's ever disagreed with a president, or anyone who simply values our democracy and wants to keep it. Now, the president will tell you that this is just about undocumented immigrants, about law and order, and about targeting dangerous violent criminals. If it was just about targeting dangerous, violent criminals, there would be no disagreement, there would be no debate. But we know differently. We don't think, we know differently. Public data released by the administration shows that the majority of immigrants currently in ICE custody have no prior criminal conviction. And new reporting shows that less than 10% of immigrants taken into ICE custody since October have no serious criminal convictions. Less than 10%. But a couple of weeks ago, it seemed that Donald Trump was at the lowest point of his presidency so far. He was drowning in a week of terrible headlines. The American people were finally waking up to the realities of the budget reconciliation bill that will cut health care, nutrition assistance, and good-paying, clean energy jobs while reducing the tax burden on billionaires. He was losing his tariff wars as the costs for everyday goods were continuing to rise. His promises to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine were falling flat, and he'd been handed loss after loss in federal court. He even had a very public breakup with Elon Musk. And I mention this only because we know what happens when the headlines turn on Donald Trump. When Donald Trump is having a bad week, he turns to the same tired playbook he always has. When in doubt, scapegoat immigrants and manufacture a crisis to distract the media from what's going on. That's the reason.
More news now. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is facing backlash after his decision last week to retire all 17 members of a CDC vaccine advisory panel and replace them with hand-picked choices, including some known vaccine skeptics. Our next guest is introducing a bill to reverse Kennedy's action and make it impossible for any other HHS secretary to do the same. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Lisa Blunt, Rochester of Delaware. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Tell us more about the bill and also how much support does it have?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this morning. This is a really serious matter. Right now, it's been 60 years that this committee has been in place, providing us with data-driven, science-based information to help us have access to safe and healthy vaccines. And Secretary Kennedy came before our committees. I am on the Help Committee, and he also came before the Finance Committee, and it said that he would follow the science and that this committee would be intact, and he has reversed his word. And so that means that individuals who are counting on this information, whether it's for their children and their immunizations, to their parents, and maybe with flu season coming up, or even us in Delaware, we have avian flu as an issue that we care about. We have more chickens than people in our state. And so this is an important, serious issue. And so other members of the committee and myself have come together and written to the secretary, but also put forward this bill called the Vaccine Act. And it really is to make sure that we reinstate that confidence that we have had through Democrats and Republicans in the past, because this is a serious matter and it will affect people's lives.
But, Senator, this was thoroughly predictable to anyone who knew anything about RFK Jr.'s record on vaccines. And he did give assurances that he would not touch this panel. So are you finding any Republican support at all for this legislation?
Well, I can tell you that I had the opportunity to even talk to the chairman of our committee, Senator Cassidy, who not only is the chairman and a Republican, but he's also a medical doctor, and share our concerns. But the reason why we put forward this legislation is because concerns aren't enough. And so we are now in the process. We just introduced this bill with Senator Lujan as well as Senator Warnock, and we've got 19 others who have also come on, signed on to the bill.
Any Republicans?
Not yet. But that's what this moment is about. We need Republicans to stand up to this chaos and craziness, just like we need them to stand up for the other things that we are seeing as well from this administration.
Senator, good morning. I want to shift gears and turn you to the story we were just discussing, the immigration raids, mixed messaging from the White House, at first suggesting that, that some of these farms would be spared. Now, perhaps not. The president over the weekend making very clear he's targeting blue cities for these raids here and potentially sending the National Guard to protect them. Given what we just saw in Los Angeles, given what we're hearing from the White House, what are your constituents telling you? What are you seeing there as to what could come?
Well, first of all, in Delaware, I served as Secretary of Labor and head of state personnel. So jobs and the economy are top of mind for me. And so as we look at this situation and what he's doing, there are a couple of things that we have to look at. One is the impact on our economy and what he's doing. The second is the politicization of, our National Guard, our military. We don't need that in a moment where we are seeing violence that is perpetuated from a political perspective. As a matter of fact, that needs to not even be a partisan issue either. It needs to be Democrats and
voices in the House, voices in the Senate, voices in Congress more broadly are standing up to Trump and how he's acting and how his cabinet is acting. And this is both in the high-profile stuff that's been capturing the attention of myself and of other commentators and of the media and of a lot of you guys, but also things flying relatively below the radar that are nonetheless important. So obviously you have the stuff with Senator Padilla, who was targeted in a disgusting way, and how, he's been very brave about it, but how it was harmful to him, to his family, to his wife, to his children. Like, it's scary stuff, right? And how Donald treating a senator like that is not only a sign of disrespect for Congress, but also it's like they're doing this to senators. I don't like the framing of, if they can do this to a senator, what can they do to you? Because they're already doing it to regular people. They're already doing it to poor and undocumented and working class and people of color. But it's like, the point is, if this is how they act on camera to senators, what do you think they're doing off camera to regular folks? And the answer is, it's probably much more heinous, much more violent, much more disrespectful. But while all of this is happening, regular, Trump BS is happening, with RFK acting like a maniac. And I don't want to downplay what's happening, but, in terms of lives cost, RFK's screw-ups and conspiracies could actually end up costing more lives than what ICE is doing. It's not as immediate in this, a battle for civil liberty sense, right? But what he's doing beneath the radar with everything happening in the United States and the world right now, his actions and inactions could cause the most harm of anything we're talking about. And that's saying a lot. So guys, we need the voices in the House and the Senate and Congress to keep speaking up, because the American people need to hear the evil Trump and his cronies are doing.